Hey, what's up, guys? This is going to be a Edison rulings series that I want to start. So I'm glad that you guys clicked on it because I do want to help you guys learn the specific rulings that Edison format specifically has. That is going to be a little bit different, or if not a lot different, than what you already understand about modern Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you're a new player or a new Edison player or a returning Edison player, this is the video for you. If you already know these rulings, that's great. You can actually watch this and still feel great about it because these are pretty obscure rulings. And it might even help you out in gameplays in the future. So yeah, so hopefully I can make I can also encourage other content creators to do kind of like a ruling segment or a ruling series. Normally I do in real life scenarios where I can just demonstrate things to you. But instead I'm going to use a dueling book because it's a lot easier, so I don't have to get the cards. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to start this ruling series off. It's just going to be the top 10 rulings that you need to know, or that you should know, to help you advance your Edison career or Edison skill set. Alright, cool. Let's start this off. Alright, so the first one is going to be the Red Dragon Archfiend. I have a replay here. So it's a Red Dragon Archfiend ruling. I'm just going to click on the button here. So here we have a tomato here to resemble any or to represent any recruiters in the game. So that could be the cards like Shiny Angel or even Nova Summoner, Giant Rat. But in this case, it's going to be Mystic Tomato here. So the Mystic Tomatoes can be set here. And then I'm going to bring out the Red Ice, I mean not the Red Ice, but the Red Dragon Archfiend. So Red Dragon Archfiend, when it attacks a recruiter, because the damage step is broken down to, I believe, 6 sub-steps, Red Dragon Archfiend is going to trigger before destroying, it's going to trigger destroying the Mystic Tomato before it's technically destroyed by battle. So because of that, this destroys the tomato by the effect of Red Dragon Archfiend, and as such, Mystic Tomato would not be able to trigger. Alright, so that should be pretty straightforward. This is also the same for DD Warrior Lady. DD Warrior Lady is the card that says after damage calculation, when it battles an opponent's monster, you can banish both the monster and the DD Warrior Lady from play after battle, after damage calculation. However, because Edison is very strange about all this, they actually made it so that Red Dragon's Archfiend's sub-step in the damage step happens on sub-step 5, and DD Warrior Lady happens on sub-step 6. And so because of that, Red Dragon Archfiend will destroy the DD Warrior Lady before DD Warrior Lady has the chance to activate or trigger its ability to banish both copies. So many of you guys actually know this particular ruling is when you have the Allied Justice Catastor and you attack a face-down monster. Now a lot of you guys think, well, I just accept that Catastor doesn't trigger when I attack a face-down monster. And it's because of the way it's worded. It says at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a face-up non-dark monster, destroy that monster. Right? But why is it that Catastor, when it flips the monster up, is now face up? Why doesn't Catastor doesn't trigger then when Ryko flips up? Well, the reason being is because of the damage step. So we're gonna pull up the chart here. At the start of the damage step is where Catastor activates, and because Catastor activates in the start of the damage step, the attack target remains face down. So that's why the timing for this to trigger is only at substep 1, whereas when you reveal the set monster, it's at substep 2, right? So once we're at substep 2, when the monster flips face up, Catastor can no longer activate because the monster is already the monster can only be flipped up on substep 2. So the timing for each of the events to happen is separate, and as a result, Catastor may never trigger as a result. Now this is the same as another card, and many of you guys don't know this card because you probably don't play Dragons. But Dragons actually has a card similar to Catastor, so I just want to demonstrate here. So it destroys, the Ryko destroys it. So now we're going to set up a scenario with, I believe you probably know this, but it's called Exploder Dragonwing. So Exploder Dragonwing says the same thing. It says at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster, you can destroy that monster, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equals to the attack of the destroyed monster it had on the field. However, how is it that how is this the same as Catastor, right? All this says is destroy the monster. It doesn't really care if the monster is face up or face down. But it does care, because the reason why it must care is because of the second sentence of this card. It says this card's attack must be greater than or equal to the attack of the monster to activate and resolve this effect. Because the face down monster has no property, meaning it doesn't have attack or defense value, Exploder Dragonwing cannot check the stat of this card until it is flipped face up. And because of that, the ruling is pretty much the same in Edison format, where, I mean, even in modern format, the start of the damage step is where Exploder Dragonwing is able to trigger, because it checks the attack of the monster. However, if it's face down, it has no properties, and therefore Exploder Dragonwing cannot trigger until it is flipped face up. Well, even after it's flipped face up, the timing to activate that effect is too late, and by the time it reveals the monster, it can no longer trigger, and then Ryko will be able to destroy Exploder Dragonwing. Okay, so it's a very it's similar to Catastor, but different in the way that it checks. This checks for the attribute when it's face up at the start of the damage step. This checks for the attack of the monster, but since neither since the property of the face down monster has no like I said, has no property, then there's no way for them to verify at the start of the damage step. I know that was a very convoluted explanation, but I hope it was simple for you guys to understand why it is that they do not trigger when they attack face down Ryko. Alright, on to the next one. Hi guys, this is going to be the second segment of the second ruling, or the third ruling for Edison format. I want to go over this one in particular because I did see, I believe he's a very popular Edison content creator by the name of Carpath. It's going to be the ruling with Dimensional Alchemist versus Ryko. So even professional players in Edison, or who are renowned professional players, do miss this ruling. So I want to go after this because I did see him do it. So this is the same with Geartown versus Ryko as well. So when Dimensional Alchemist activates its effect when it's destroyed, it has a win and can ability. So that means it has the ability to miss the timing. So when you swing into, so say you attack into a Ryko, the new text of Ryko is always going to be shown on Dueling Book. But if you go on like such things as TCG Player, I'll show you to TCG Player. Ryko actually has an old text where he applies his effect not simultaneously. In fact, he does it one at a time. So this is the Elo Light of Destruction Ryko, the original print of Ryko when it first came out. It says flip, you can destroy one card on the field, period, and then send the top cards of your deck, 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So because of the way this is worded, it's not happening simultaneously, it's happening one at a time. So the last thing that happens is actually sending the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So in this case, when Dimensional Alchemist were to attack Ryko, and Ryko then destroys the Dimensional Alchemist, he destroys the Alchemist, sending it to the graveyard, and then he mills 3. And the last thing that happens is actually the cards milling 3 cards off the top of your deck. And because of that interaction, Dimensional Alchemist is unable to fetch a monster from the banished to the hand. This works the same with Geartown. Geartown also has this ability where it says when this card is destroyed, and then you can special summon. If Ryko were to flip summon and then destroy Geartown, he would destroy the Geartown and then mill 3. And in the same scenario, this Geartown would miss the timing. So even professional players forget that the Ryko has been eroded over a series of years. That Dueling Books can actually deceive Edison players into thinking that it works simultaneously. So yeah, that's the ruling for you for number 3. On to the next one. Alright, for the next one, we're gonna have a well, in the Edison format, this card is actually called Cybernetic Soldier, but it does the same exact thing. We're gonna have a ruling where it's Cybernetic Soldier versus new elemental hero Alius. So this guy is popular in the hero deck, and when it battles, this is a very popular side deck against heroes. So here we have an Alius versus a Cybernetic Soldier. And we have the Honest. Okay. So say the hero player decides to use Honest onto the Cybernetic Soldier. Because of the way that the damage step is pretty much happening, Cybernetic Soldier in the damage step has to trigger because in substep, I believe it's subset 4. I have the photos here. Let me go find it. Edison format. Here we go. Okay, and then we have here a breakout of the damage step. It's a really handy chart that I found on edisonformat.com. So it's actually subset 4. So at subset 4, you can actually apply card effects that specify damage calculation, right? And because Cybernetic Soldier is a mandatory effect, it's always going to be chain link 1 in this scenario before you can activate Honest. Because Honest specifies the damage step only you can activate. So that means that the Cybernetic Soldier, being a mandatory effect, will gain the effect as chain link 1, which means that your Honest can only be chain link 2. Now a lot of people think that, well, why don't I just wait for this to resolve and then use Honest? Well, that's not the case, because in the Edison format, you can only have I believe you can only have between step 1 and 3. You can only have you can have multiple chains happening, but when you reach 4 to 7, you can only have one manual chain. Let me see here. Yeah, right here. So on number 4, it says there can only be one chain in the substep. So as a result, even if you have the Honest and you swing into the Cybernetic Soldier in attack mode, and you use it, Cybernetic Soldier has to be the chain link 1, and then Honest will have to be chain link 2, and therefore Alius will actually only gain 1350 from this exchange, and Cybernetic Soldier will gain 2000. So in this exchange, Cybernetic Soldier would actually destroy Alius even when backed up with an Honest. So yeah, that's going to be ruling number 4, and I hope you guys enjoyed that one. On to the next one. Alright, this is more like a tip than it is a ruling, but it is also a ruling portion of this video. So here we're going to have Royal Oppression set by the opponent, and you're going to have a face down Macrocosmos. So much like modern format, when a card includes the effect to special summon a monster, even though you do not intend on bringing out the intended monster, Royal Oppression is actually able to flip and destroy Macrocosmos on the chain. And then if you're worried about having your monsters or your cards banished, and you have our face down Royal Oppression can actually destroy Macrocosmos when you flip it face up on the chain. So that's more like a tip slash ruling interaction. If you ever feel as if Macrocosmos is shutting you down, Royal Oppression can actually be used to destroy Macrocosmos. So you can save the MST, you can save the Dust Tornado for better for other traps that isn't Macrocosmos. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, this is going to be another one. So some of you guys may actually already know this because it's been popularized already, but this is going to be the Treeborn Frog ruling with Rivalry Warlord. So I'm going to have here a Caius in hand, and my opponent's going to have the Rivalry Warlord. So normally in modern formats of Yu-Gi-Oh, Rivalry Warlords prevents you from tributing a one type for a different type. Now in the Edison format, especially in the Edison tournament that happened in I believe it was 2010, March 2010, yeah, they actually ruled this a little bit differently. Tributing off the Treeborn, you can actually tribute off your only type monster for a different type monster, and this applies also to Gladiator Beasts as well. So here you can actually do this legally. With Gladiator Beasts, you can actually tag out your only type monster for a different type monster. So here I can demonstrate that to you. So I can bring out Bestiary from the deck, and then you can pop the Rivalry. Now this is a little bit different. If you control two of the same types, so pretend that this is a Ekest. I don't know if you guys know what Gladiator Barrier Ekest is, but he's also a winged beast. So in this example, if this was a Gladiator based Ekest who's also a winged beast as Bestiary, that prevents you from tagging out any of the winged beast monsters for a non-winged beast monster. So if you try to go into a Laquari, you cannot do that because you control another type that's already a winged beast. So for your Gladiator Beast Gladiator Beast players out there, just be careful using or summoning a second Gladiator Beast that is the same type as the other one if you intend on using it for the if you intend on tagging out for a different type. So yeah, that's the Rivalry of the Warlords ruling. On to the next one. Alright guys, so this is going to be a Gladiator Beast ruling, so I'm going to set up the field here. So here we have a set Alchemist here with the set Chariot. And opponent's going to go summon the Ehren here and go to battle phase and swing into the Alchemist. So here the Alchemist flips face up, right? And because Alchemist is face up, Ehren then triggers the ability where it says, if this card attacks the defense position monster, before damage calculation, shuffle that monster into the deck. Now, the before damage calculation step is actually past the Ally of Justice Catastor and the Exploder Dragonwing step. So we're going to look at our reference here, and it says that before damage calculation is where Ehren triggers. So you can see here the picture of mini Ehren here is when Ehren triggers the ability. Now, however, now that Alchemist is now face up, you can actually activate Gladiator Beast War Chariot because now Ehren is now Chain Link 1, and now you've fulfilled the requirement for having a Gladiator Beast face up on the field, and then you can activate War Chariot and destroy the Ehren. Now, what happens at the end of the battle phase? Is Alchemist able to be returned back to the deck because it was in battle with Ehren? Well, it turns out you cannot do that. According to Edison format, I guess reservoir of rulings, the only Gladiator Beast that you can actually reference is Gladiator Beast Alexander, and it says here that the optional trigger effect may be activated if this card engaged in damage damage calculation. Now, if you look at the chart here, damage calculation is actually right here, and because Ehren triggers here and Chariot destroyed the Ehren, therefore the Gladiator Beast never actually engaged in damage calculation, and Alchemist actually stays on the field despite being flipped face up by Ehren's ability. So this is a FYI if ever you come across a situation where Ehren is attacking the Alchemist, know that in substep 3 she triggers, and then the reason why Alchemist is flipped face up is because it is revealed in substep 2 of the chain. So because of that, Alchemist is now face up, and then now Gladiator Beast War Chariot is now able to be activated because the requirement to have a GB is now face up. So that was the Alchemist ruling. And on to the next one. Alright, cool. So this is going to be another rulings example where it's kind of like a tip, but it's also kind of a rulings dispute. So this is going to be Starlight Road and Heavy Storm. And we're going to set this scenario up where player 1 sets 3 back row. And turn is passed. And the other player has 3 sets as well. Okay. So player 1 decides to activate Heavy Storm. I know this is a really bad example because who would Heavy Storm through back row, and this is basically a neg 4 here to kill 2 back row. But for the sake of learning, we're gonna treat this player as activating Heavy Storm as Chain Link 1. Now, when you activate a card, priority is then passed over to your opponent to respond with one of their traps to their Heavy Storm. the player A fully intends to activate Starlight Road to Heavy Storm. However, if you have a chainable trap card in response to the Heavy Storm, you can actually interrupt the Starlight Road's timing because Starlight Road has to directly negate the card that's destroying 2 or more on the field. Since T-Roar was Chainlink 2, you cannot respond Starlight Road to the threatening roar, and as such, you can actually force make your opponent lose out on the Heavy Storm or the Starlight Road ability in this example. So if ever anybody tries to do Heavy Storm play and it seems like they're trying to get a Starlight Road to go off, simply just chain a chainable on anything. Like it could be a Book of Moon on a face-up monster or an MST on one of the sets. You can interrupt the Starlight Road from negate or from bringing out Stardust. Here's another little tool, little tip. It's the same as it's the same scenario, but slightly different. So here we have the MST here, and this player is going to activate the Heavy Storm. So we can. So player B is now going to be activating Heavy Storm, hoping to clear out all this back row, and player B or player A, I guess, activates a Starlight Road in response to the Heavy Storm. However, player A has, or player B has MST in hand. So MST then targets the Heavy Storm and then destroys the Heavy Storm off the field, right? And when that happens, Starlight Road can no longer destroy Heavy Storm, right? Because if you read the wording, it says negate the effect, and if you do, destroy that card. And then it has conjunction as it says, then you can special summon a Stardust. Because you cannot do A, destroy the card, then therefore you cannot do B, special summon a Stardust. Because MST destroyed the Heavy Storm and brought it off the field, right? Starlight Road can no longer destroy the Heavy Storm, therefore you cannot do the second part of the effect, which is to be able to special summon a Stardust. So, like I said, this was kind of like a tip slash ruling portion, and I hope you guys enjoyed that one. On to the next one. Okay, so this could be another ruling. So this is going to be regarding brain control in Book of Moon. So here we have a Goblin Zombie, and player B activates, or player A activates brain control, stealing the Goblin Zombie, and activates Book of Moon. So the question is, does Book of Moon make the stolen monster forget that it was owned by the opponent? And the answer to that is no, it does not forget. But a lot of people might conflate this ruling with Snat Steal. The reason why Snat Steal and Tsukuyomi works is because Tsukuyomi, or Snat Steal, is an equipped card. So when you steal a monster with Snat Steal and you summon Tsukuyomi to set the monster is no longer equipped with the Snat Steal, and therefore you can keep the monster set. However, this is not the case with Brain Control, because Brain Control is a lingering effect that resolves or finishes resolving at the end phase of the turn. So therefore, you have to return the monster face down after the opponent, or at the end phase of the turn. All right, on to the next one. Hi guys, so this is going to be the last one for the top 10, and I think this is going to be a really special one actually, for those of you guys who probably don't know this ruling. So, I believe it was, let me see here. So here we have a set Nimble Mega Hamster, and it's been set, and this Fossil Dyna has been set as well. So we pass, and the player A decides to flip Super Nimble Mega Hamster to special summon a face down Ryko. Okay, so now that the monster is face down, what happens if the Mega Hamster decides to attack the Fossil Dyna, thus triggering the flip effect of Fossil Dyna? Does the monster that is face down remember that it was special summoned? And the answer to that is yes. It does remember that it was special summoned even though it's face down. And there's again another handy picture for Book of Moon about retaining information if the monster is flip face down. So because the monster was flip face down or special summon set, remembers that the monster was special summon even if it's set. So therefore, Fossil Dyna actually sees that this monster is special summon in the face down defense position, and if you flip Pachycephalo, it'll destroy the Ryko set. Here's another example. So here we have a magical android here, and Book of Moon was resolved on the attack. So normally you would just activate Book of you would just let the Fossil Dyna resolve by flipping it off this attack. But say you want to let's say you want to preserve the Fossil Dyna, you can actually Book of Moon a set Synchro monster, and because it is now set, it still remembers being a special summon monster even if it's set. And so on your next turn, you can flip the Fossil Dyna and destroy the android. So anytime you want to refer or look at what kind of information a set monster has after being flipped, just refer to this chart here, and you'll be able to answer some of the questions here. Alright, so yeah, that was my rulings video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys really enjoyed this type of series, leave a thumbs up on the video, and I'll create more, and I'll find out more for you guys to have and share with the community. And as always, thank you for watching.